Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Musicast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And welcome to the episode this week. It's my turn to pick the topic, and as normal, Joy doesn't know what it's going to be. So this week, I choose the topic of the Hard Rock Cafe.
We should have predicted this a few weeks back, guys.
So it's sort of a semi-extension to the Rock and Roll Road Trip, but it's not. So I wanted to cover the world of the Hard Rock Cafe. But before we get into anything, I have been to a few Hard Rock Cafes, one or two. So I just wanted to list them as we open the episode. So this might be boring for people listening, but these are the Hard Rock Cafes I've been to. Okay, are you ready, Joy?
I'm ready.
Okay, in the UK, London, Bristol, Birmingham, Cardiff, Manchester, Nottingham, Leeds, Edinburgh. Copenhagen in Denmark, Paris in France. In Canada, Niagara Falls, Toronto Skydome and Toronto. Lisbon in Portugal. And in the USA, the old New York City, the new New York City, Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, Cleveland, Ohio, Niagara Falls, New York, both of them in Las Vegas, San Diego, La Jolla, California, Hollywood, California, Los Angeles, California, the old one, San Francisco, California, Sacramento, California, Lake Tahoe, Nevada, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Washington, D.C., Atlantic City, New Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland, Philadelphia, PA, Salt Lake City, Utah, Phoenix, Arizona, the new Vegas one on the Strip, Orlando, Florida, Tampa, Florida, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and San Antonio, Texas. 42.
So I'll just list mine. One of the New Yorks, because I have no idea what the new or the old one is, because that's something I don't know. Pigeon Forge, Salt Lake City. I got 3.
Yay! Well, I can tell you that the Salt Lake City location is no longer there.
Yeah, I knew it was taken down. I lived there for a little bit.
And the one that's in New York City, I assume you went to the one in Times Square.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to have one that was away from Times Square, but they moved it to the Paramount Theater.
Yeah, that's the one. And I remember that one had a lot. That one, the music was really loud.
Yeah, that's
very loud.
That's company policy. Anyway, what I wanted to do with that laundry list of places that I've been to at the beginning of the show, I just wanted to run over a quick history of the Hard Rock Cafe. So the Hard Rock Cafe came out in 1979. It was the first location was in London in Park Lane, and it was two American guys who launched it in London. Isaac Tigert and Peter Morton. They wanted a quirky US-style diner in London, so they opened it up. And interestingly enough, do you know where the name Hard Rock Cafe comes from?
No, Hard Rock Candy. Is it candy?
No. It is?
I didn't actually know. That was just my guess.
Well, there's a Doors album called the Morrison Hotel.
I did know that because that's my last name.
There you go. And on the back of the Morrison Hotel album, there is a picture of a place called the Hard Rock Cafe. And it was actually a real cafe in Los Angeles back in the 70s before hard rock was a thing. And it was located on East 5th Street, Los Angeles. And when the two guys who founded Hard Rock were thinking of a name, they got it off the back of this album. That place in
that album's the one that has it's like Morrison in white, and it's like a window, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's the album. Okay,
that's correct. And in fact, that album cover, they weren't allowed to take that picture, so they ran in and they took the shot and then ran off because they weren't supposed to do it.
Well, cool fact, everybody. My dad's name is Jim, and his last name is Morrison.
I tell you, a lot of people have enjoyed your dad's music.
There you go.
Fantastic. Well, the two guys who founded the Hard Rock Cafe in London, they originally had like quirky stuff in there because they was going for a sort of 50s diner type thing, not necessarily with rock and roll memorabilia, but Eric Clapton was a big fan of the original Hard Rock Cafe. And he had a spot by the bar, and he joked with the people who owned it that he was going to nail a guitar to the wall to reserve his seat. Mm-hmm. So he sent a guitar down, and they hung it on the wall, and it was like, this is Eric's seat. And then Pete Townsend from The Who heard about this, and he sent a guitar down and said, my guitar's good as Eric's, hang this one on the wall. So they hung Pete Townsend's guitar on the wall, and that is where the rock and roll memorabilia that Hard Rock Cafe came from.
And I wonder if they were the first, because there's a few other kind of like restaurant chains that kind of do that memorabilia all over the walls thing. And we have the local, McAdoo's does that kind of thing. That's a local restaurant to us. But there's like, I don't know, not necessarily Ruby Tuesdays, but there's some maybe Applebee's. They have like all the memorabilia all over the wall. I wonder if they kind of followed, if that's where that all started. It's not necessarily music. It's just that kind of weird stuff all over the wall.
Yeah, I think it came from the Hard Rock, because after the Hard Rock, you had Planet Hollywood, which was the same kind of idea but with film memorabilia, and then you had the Fashion Cafe, and then there's the NBA Cafe, and then there's lots of places that are like themed like that where they have the memorabilia on the walls.
Have you ever been to a Planet Hollywood? I've been to one.
Yeah, I've been to the one in New York City.
That's the one I went to.
Yeah, I've been to the one in Myrtle Beach, which I think has since gone. And I've been to the one in Orlando, which I think is still there.
I think it is because, well, it's been years, but I'm pretty sure it was there when I was there last. But I've only ever been to one. I mean, it was okay. It was just, but it really is just like Hard Rock only for movies.
Yeah, it was popular for about 5 minutes, and it didn't really stand the test of time. I read a whole article about it, and they had all these film stars as investors, and everyone wanted to get in on it, and there was big happenings around the Planet Hollywoods, but it's not what it was. Oh, actually, I've been to two others. I've been to the one in London, and I've been to the one in Vegas.
Well, if I can remember right, when I went, Hard Rock Cafe's food was, it's okay. I mean, it's not like you're there for the food, but Planet Hollywood's food was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, Hard Rock Cafe food at best is expensive diner food.
Yeah, 110%. It's overpriced, but it's okay. Like, you can eat it. But if I remember, I didn't care for whatever I ate at Planet Hollywood.
No, I think I had some kind of turkey burger or something when I last went to Planet Hollywood, and it wasn't terribly good. But the Hard Rock food is fine, but as I said, it is overpriced diner food. You're paying for the atmosphere and the kudos, if you will, of eating in a Hard Rock rather than actually the food. I will say where this Hard Rock thing comes from is my wife Hannah wanted to eat a BLT in every Hard Rock in the world. This was like some goal that she set herself. So when I used to visit here before I lived here, a lot of our trips that we made around the country before I lived here were based around Hard Rock cafes, which is why we've been to so many. And in fact, a lot of trips now recently have been based around Hard Rocks. The last Hard Rock we went to in San Antonio, Texas, where we went there for our wedding anniversary, was, well, it's the Alamo and stuff, but we went there because there was a new Hard Rock to go to.
So does she always get a BLT when you guys go?
Well, not anymore. So we was in the Hard Rock Cafe in, I think it was somewhere in California. I think it was Sacramento. We went in the Hard Rock Cafe in Sacramento, and then she got terrible food poisoning.
Gotcha.
And I went to the one in Orlando, Florida, on the City Walk, and also got terrible food poisoning. So this isn't looking good for our friends at the Hard Rock Cafe. But
and so happened. It was off of BLTs.
I didn't have a BLT. It was some chicken something or other, but she had a BLT. But I don't think she's had a Hard Rock BLT since, and I think they've taken it off the menu.
That's fair. I couldn't tell you what I ate there. I mean, to be honest, their menu just kind of reminded me of like every other restaurant.
Yeah, as I say, it's nothing particularly special. But because of this, because of Hannah's connection to the Hard Rock Cafe, when we got married in 2008, we had a very simple deal at the registry office, or a courthouse, as you would say here. And then we went to the Hard Rock Cafe in London, the very same Hard Rock, the very first one, for our wedding dinner reception type affair.
Well,
and when I called the Hard Rock to reserve a table, they said they don't reserve tables. And I explained what it was for, and they said, we can probably reserve a table for you.
So what you're telling me is Hard Rock Cafe is going to sponsor this episode, and that's the grand surprise. Yay! First real sponsorship. I guess second, because Freak Jam sponsored a second real sponsorship. Yay!
The other cool thing that the London Hard Rock used to have is they had I think they still have it. It's opposite, and it used to be a bank, and it's called the Vault. And the top part of it is a merchandise store, and down in the basement they have a lot of better quality instruments that they don't normally have screwed to the wall. A lot of the stuff they have screwed to the wall
they don't normally have screwed to the wall. Just a caveat there.
Yeah. a lot of the better quality, well, I say a lot of the stuff they have screwed to the wall is what they call signers, where they're not terribly good quality guitars or not a guitar that an artist would play, but it's one they've just scribbled their name on.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
But
So
I mean,
do they just keep a back stock of them, and when John Lennon, well, not John Lennon, he's not going to walk in, but when I don't know, Paul McCartney walks in, he goes, "Let me scribble that one," and then that one makes it up on the wall. They keep a stock of them in the back.
I think they buy a lot of stuff at auction, and they have a huge warehouse somewhere with like thousands and thousands of pieces in it. And what they do is they rotate the stock through various different restaurants worldwide. But some of the restaurants will have cool stuff, but a lot of it, as I said, it's just signers and t-shirts and posters and things like that. But down in the vault, they had really good stuff. They had a Jeff Beck Telecaster, or it was an Esquire, I think it was. They had a Les Paul that was owned by Les Paul. They had Duane Allman Strat. They had a Jimi Hendrix left-handed Flying V, which is actually a pretty famous instrument. And they had it all down there. And for a very short period of time, they had a curator down there who was a little bit loose and free with that stuff. And if you got chatting to it, and if you got chatting to him, and you told him you was a guitar player, he would let you play it. So I've got pictures of playing Duane Allman's Sunburst Strat and the Hendrix V and the Jeff Beck Telecaster.
You just thought that got fired by our sponsors.
But I've heard that if you go there now, either they have a different curator of the vault, or they were told not to do that anymore, because apparently it's not a thing anymore.
So I have a story, Tim, that is totally related, and by totally related, not related at all, but you made me think of it, and it's funny. So when you kept saying the vault, so one time when me and Charlie were traveling from Virginia to Utah, our car broke down, of course, because that's what happens in life. And we stayed at this hotel that was literally a hole in the wall, but it was the closest place to where our car broke down. So we kept saying the vault. It reminded me. So the hotel, the guy from the hotel, we had to wait a few days. We had to stay in the hotel. We got a Greyhound, got home, got the car fixed, yada, yada, yada. It all worked out in the end. But while we were there, he brought us into, so the hotel actually was made of like cement bricks. That's what I'm talking about, hole in the wall. So the whole thing was really a vault, but he had this little area you could go in, and he had collected all the items anybody had ever left in the hotel. And he had price tags on them for you to buy.
What?
Yeah, like there was like sunglasses, because people knew their sunglasses all the time. Suitcases, somebody's T-shirt they left last week. And he was trying to sell them. So this story gets even greater. So obviously, this is the guy we're working with here. So we determined that the vehicle was not worth even fixing. We're just going to scrap it. It wasn't our main car. We had another car back home. Yada yada. We're going to scrap it. So we scrapped it. And by the way, we were like in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, just stuck on the side of the road. So we scrapped the vehicle. And this was very earlier in my life. When the guy came to pick up the scrap vehicle, the battery was still in the vehicle, because he's paying for the parts. The man that had this little makeshift store at the bottom of his hotel tried to steal the battery out of our car before the guy that was coming to scrap it got there. And so when the guy gets there, lifts the hood up, this man takes the battery and tries to walk away with it. And so him and the guy that's trying to, buy the car argued for 20 minutes over who got the battery. Because I'm guessing he was going to take it and put it in his little store. So that's the version of the vault I have been in, Tim.
Oh, well,
different.
There's a trick with hotels. I've never done this because I'm not that sketchy, but I know people have done this. So if you ever want a charger for your phone, you go to any hotel, doesn't matter what it is. Just go up to the reception, because they night cruise and day cruise. There's lots of different people that work in these chain hotels, and people who work in chain hotels typically probably wouldn't be that fussed anyway. You go up to the reception and say, "Hey, I was here on a trip last week and I left my iPhone charger in the room. Do you still have it?"
And they're going to pull one out of the thing and be like, "Sure, I have it."
Yeah, and they pull out a big box and you go through it and you go, "Oh yeah, thank you."
Unless that's the one that the hotel that I was staying in, and then he's going to charge you $5 to get it back. Moral story is, the guy that scrapped the car did get the battery because he was the one buying for it. But to this day, I still can't believe that happened. And me and Charlie were just standing there looking at him like, okay. I really just want to go home. So can we end this?
It does seem through these podcasts, it does seem that calamity and oddity does follow you.
Oh yeah, 110%. Might as well be my middle name, and it's my family. We were cursed from. I was cursed from the beginning. We call it the Morrison family luck. If it will happen to anyone, it will happen to us. Yeah, it'll happen to us.
Did I read that correctly that you went to Sinclair? Was it Sinclair Farms and you got stung by a bee recently?
Yeah, so I went to on Saturday. We went to the Sunflower Festival, and me and my friends, my friend Molly, my friend Nick, and his husband Brad all went, and we were walking through the sunflowers, and I got stung by a bee, right on the arm.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was worth it though. I got some cute pictures of it, but I totally got stung by the bee.
Well, it's good news that you're not allergic to bee stings.
I am not. I will say it depends on the type of bee. If a wasp or a hornet gets me, I swell up really bad. But this was just like a little honey bee or whatever, so it didn't make that. It wasn't that bad.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it wasn't too bad. But
Well, the Dollywood episode, that's what I told you. I got stung by a bee on the hay while I was on the little thing going up the Gatlinburg skyline.
Oh, dear.
Stuck however many feet in the air. All right. So more about Hard Rock Cafe, Tim. What else?
Yeah, so more about Hard Rock. So what I've done is I've pulled up some pictures of my various trips to Hard Rocks, and I was just going to recount some tales of there. So as I said, this may be a tenuous music link, but, you know, it is a music-focused chain, and they have the memorabilia. And like you say, they do like to blast their music out loud.
Yeah, don't go in there if you're planning on having a conversation with anybody.
No, absolutely not. So the first one that comes to mind is that we went to Niagara Falls in Canada 2 years ago, October 2019, just coming up for 2 years ago for my birthday. And Hard Rock has more or less completely pulled out the Canadian market. The only Hard Rock they have is the one at Niagara Falls, Canada side. And what's cool about this one is that a lot of the Hard Rocks now, see, the Hard Rock chain used to be owned by Rank, or Top Rank, who used to run bingo clubs in England, amongst other interests and films.
Like actual bingo clubs?
Yeah, they're top.
Wait, are there bingo clubs in England? Like people go to a club and play bingo?
Yeah, it's a chain. There's several chains.
We don't have that here. So for us, if you want to go play bingo, you've got to go to Tim's place where you get the meat raffle on the VFW on a Saturday night. Might run a bingo. So there's an actual chain. Do that? Like I'm guessing they sell alcohol and food and
yeah.
So it's like a poker type thing, but bingo.
Yeah. So like in the town that I came from, for all you bingo card fans out there, Hounslow. There was two. I used to live next door to the Beacon Bingo Club, which was at the bottom of Hounslow High Street on Staines Road, and it was a huge bingo club. And my mum and my nan used to go there on a Thursday and a Sunday, and it was a huge bingo club. And like you say, they did other things as well. I think they had entertainment through the week and also food and stuff. But yeah, it was a big bingo club. And then I think it stopped being the Beacon Bingo, and then I think it became the Gala Bingo. And then last time I was there, which was 3 or 4 years ago, it became a gym. But it was a big club. And then at the very top of the high street, past the bus garage, and I know you know exactly where this is, Joy, because I know you're familiar with the inner workings of Hounslow High Street.
I'm becoming very familiar. I could draw a map soon.
Yeah, there was another bingo club. I think that was actually the Top Rank, or the Rank.
So did they give you prizes if you won the bingo?
No, they gave you money.
Oh, yeah. So that's the way it is here. You put the money in the drawing and the overall winner wins it all or whatever.
Yeah. So you would buy the books, the bingo books. And unlike US bingo that says BING over the top and they say G60 and A3, it's not like that. They just.
Bingo has an A in it.
Yeah, or whatever.
Anyway, continue.
It's late, Joy. What can I tell you? But you know, like you would do the letters with the numbers. They don't do that. So they just say 4 and 7, 47, 2 and 3, 23. That sort of stuff.
Well, that makes it not as fun. The whole point of bingo is the name BINGO. Like, what's his name of the song? Like that sounds like British people make bingo boring.
But then you see, bingo was sort of fading off into the distance. It wasn't because popular. For a period of time, the bingo companies were buying up old cinemas. When cinema fell out of favor, sort of in the late 80s, early 90s.
I didn't know there was a big bingo business in the world. Like, I'm learning all about big bingo.
Yeah. So they'd buy all the old cinemas and turn them into bingo halls. That was a thing, like in the late 80s, early 90s, where where they used to show films would have bingo halls. Okay. So after a while, it started to fizzle out a little bit, and bingo wasn't as popular. So they introduced the national game. And what the national game is all the bingo clubs in the country, like various chains and various other people doing this bingo, would have like a big bingo game where you could buy a ticket for it, and then the prize was not a few £1,000, it was hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Oh, wow. So these are the same people who started the Hard Rock Cafe.
Well, they used to, at one point, they owned the Hard Rock Cafe. It changed, the organization changed hands a few times, and the Rank organization owned it for a while. And they had film interests and they had gaming interests.
Who knew Big Bingo was going to take over the world as much as it did?
Exactly. And I can tell you that when I was a kid, my parents, or my mum in particular, won almost £1,000 on the bingo in the, must have been mid-80s. And with that money, we bought our first ever video recorder.
Charlie won a bunch of money in Vegas one time.
Oh.
I don't know what we did with the money. I think he ended up reinvesting it. We never got home with I think at one point he had won like $2,000, but he ended up reinvesting it. I think we came home with like $400. Wasn't the smartest.
My first time in Vegas, I went to a slot machine. I put a $20 bill in. I won like 40 or 50, and I hit cash out. And I said, yes, I broke the casino.
So when we lived in Utah, you could drive. I wasn't driving it. You could ride what we called the party bus, and it would take you from Salt Lake City over the border into like Wendover and stuff. And so Wendover is like a mini Vegas right on the border. Mm-hmm. And so you could take it down. You pay like $15. They drive you there, and then they run back every hour. So you could bring it back up, and just get in your car at the bus lot or whatever when you get home. And then I think they give you like a free drink and a free meal ticket or something with buying it. And you know how like the casinos always have those big food bars. Mm-hmm. And so that one, we debated so we went, I think we left, probably had like $200 with us, put maybe $100 in. Charlie got like $2,000 out of this $100, but he let the greedy hands get him and he ended up reinvesting. He still came back he doubled his money. He came back with $400 from $200, but at one point he had $2,000.
Yeah, that's the time to hit the cash out button and get your ticket cashed in and walk away.
I never said we were smart. Just saying, that's what happened.
Fabulous. Anyway, back to we've gone through the ins and outs of bingo and associated gambling. Let's go back to Hard Rock. Though I will say that Hard Rock did have a Hard Rock hotel in Vegas, and as part of that, they had a casino on the ground floor.
All comes full circle here. Comes full circle.
It does. But however, that Hard Rock was not owned by Hard Rock International, because Hard Rock is now owned by the Somali Native American tribe, who are big into gaming.
I say that a lot of the Indian tribes have a lot of gaming casinos and things like that.
Yeah, so they own the Hard Rock brand now. But that particular Hard Rock, the one in Vegas, was not owned by Hard Rock. The name was like a franchise. And I think the franchising agreement ran out, and now Virgin, Richard Branson's Virgin company, own it, and it's now the Virgin Hotel. So here's a question for you, Joy. Did you say you'd been to Myrtle Beach?
Many times.
And did you ever eat in the Pyramid Hard Rock there?
No, I've seen it from the outside, and it looked really cool, but I've never eaten inside of it.
So Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is probably the closest coastal resort to here, which is, it's 4 hours in the car, 5 hours in the car, something like that. Some people will go to, if you want a trip away, some people will go to Gatlinburg, which is about 3.5 hours from here, which is the mountains. It doesn't have any sea. But Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, is the nearest coast to us that's resorty. It's like a resort town.
Yeah. And it's got a ton of different things you can do there, just even outside. A lot of people will go like Carowinds is close to it, which is a big amusement park and things like that.
It's like super fancy Blackpool, I suppose.
For our European friends.
Exactly. So anyway, the Myrtle Beach had the Hard Rock there, and it was in the shape of a pyramid. And I'm a big fan of novelty architecture. So, of course, we've eaten in there a number of times.
I've never heard it referred to in that manner, but okay.
like, where is it? At Gatlin, well, it's Pigeon Forge. As you come into Pigeon Forge, there is that Titanic.
Yeah.
And it's a Titanic museum in the shape of the Titanic.
Titanic, yep.
And then they also have the Wonder Works, which is like a wacky kids like science museum type thing.
That one I know very well.
But the whole building is upside down. It's built like that.
Yeah, it's near that. There's like we've got and even the aquarium, the Guinness World Record Book aquarium's kind of a crazy looking building itself there too. But I mean, I've been up and down that strip a million times before.
Exactly. Well, anyway, I'm a big fan of novelty architecture. So the pyramid at Myrtle Beach was always very appealing. So I'd eaten in there a number of times. However, the pyramid design was not structurally sound. And
glad I didn't go in. It probably would have fell apart when I walked in.
Well, it was built in the 90s. And I mean, it lasted up to the late 2000s. I think it was 2013, 2014, they had to demolish it because it literally was structurally not sound.
Wasn't one of the Hard Rocks, the one in Vegas, wasn't it on like a rotating thing? Was there one that was like on a rotating type ball thing?
At the south end of the strip, you have the Stratosphere, or the Strat as it's now known. That has a rotating restaurant in it, but it's not a Hard Rock.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of that. For some reason, I thought it was a Hard Rock. Continue, not related.
Yeah, and also, actually, going back to Vegas, the Luxor in Vegas, which is also a pyramid, is also not structurally sound, and it's sinking into the ground at like 15 millimeters a year or something.
So when you're saying they're not structurally sound, here's my kid's question. So think like pyramids from Egypt and stuff. They've literally been around since millions of years ago. How can those pyramids, how could they do it so well then? But we can't get one pyramid in America to stay up longer than 40 years.
Well, I think it's the design. So the pyramids of Giza are big stone.
Guys.
Yeah, the pyramids of Giza or Gaza, the pyramids of the Gaza Strip.
I'll never live that one down. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, the pyramids. Yeah, the pyramids in Egypt are big blocks of stone, and they're just stacked up into a pyramid shape. The ones like the novelty architecture we have here, like in Luxor or the one in Myrtle Beach, they are building to building code in the same way that you would build any hotel or restaurant or anything like that, so that you have to take into fire considerations and all that stuff when you build things. And building it in that pyramid shape apparently is not easy to do, and they just don't last.
It's just ironic that like that's one of the we're known for the pyramids lasting forever, but our pyramids are just falling apart.
But what's cool about Myrtle Beach, they don't, again, this one closed down too. This is not related to the Hard Rock, but it is music related. They had a Kiss coffee house at Myrtle Beach. Did you ever go there?
I didn't know it existed, so no.
So it was like a Starbucks type affair, pretty much the same thing, and it sold Kiss merchandise, and they had Kiss videos playing. It was actually a pretty small unit. It wasn't a big place, but it was a small place. But the best thing about it, outside, they had two massive recreations of Gene Simmons's stage boots, and they had like nostrils on them, and then like dry ice smoke would come out of them.
That's the most random thing I've ever heard. Like, of all the things I can think of Kiss having, a coffee house is not one of them. I mean, there's literally Kiss caskets, which we've discussed before. I mean, every Kiss memorabilia you can think of exists, but I would have never, not in a million years, thought they had a coffee house.
Yeah, Kiss had a coffee house. We went in there a number of times, And it was like Starbucks, but 50% more expensive.
And this was in Myrtle Beach, like just main downtown?
No,
How
Broadway.
did I miss this?
It was at Broadway at the beach.
I've walked on the little boardwalk there a million. How did I miss a giant Kiss coffee shop? I must not have been paying very close attention because now I'm concerned for myself that I missed literal black ice or black ice. Is that what it's called? Dry ice coming out of giant boots. Black ice is the one you drive on, Joy, and die. Well, hey, Tim thought Bingo had an A earlier, everybody. Give me a break. I'm very concerned that I never noticed that. So I'm guessing it's no longer there.
No, I think it closed. It was 5 or 6 years ago because we went on a trip to Myrtle Beach. And I said to Hannah, I said, let's go to the Kiss Coffee House because it's cool there. And they had the coolest bathroom you've ever seen in your life. And when you went in there was painting. It wasn't even pictures. Someone had painted Gene, Paul, Ace, and the drummer whose name escapes me.
Peter Criss?
Yeah, up on the wall. They were the actual paintings. An artist had painted them on the wall. And then the floor was a resin, and set in the resin was guitar picks.
That is pretty cool. Okay. I've actually seen people do the floors with guitar picks before. They say you can do that yourself. It looks pretty cool. I've also seen people do it with pennies.
Yeah, I've seen that. Own. Yeah, where you would, say like in a kitchen or something, you would lay hundreds or thousands of pennies out, and then you pour like a setting resin over the top and let it set, and then you buff it to a sheen, and then it looks like they're all in the floor. I've
seen that done with pennies and with guitar picks, and it's honestly pretty cool. Oh, did you guys know that this podcast also gives you tips for when you're working on your house? It's cost effective flooring ideas.
let me tell you, I've learned more about home repairs in the last 2 years than I ever wanted to know about.
Call Tim for all your home repair needs, and he'll be like, nope, I don't even want to do my own piece.
Need to hang a ceiling fan? Yep, I can do that. Need to switch a outlet out in your house? Yeah, I can do that. Paint things, create borders, hang curtain rails. That's things I never knew I wanted to do.
That's what buying a house does to you, Tim.
No, there you go.
No idea what that has anything to do with music. All right. Any more Hard Rock Cafe facts over here for us?
Okay, so another one that I was going to mention was the one that you've been to, which is the one in New York City. Mm-hmm. Now, that is in the old Paramount Theater.
Yeah.
And I think that is, in fact, I know that is the largest location that they currently have.
Yeah, I think that was like one of their big sticks when we went. Because that was, what was that? What would have been probably 2008 when I went? Mm-hmm. Would have been about the time I went. It was my senior year when I was with my choir. So we went and ate in there. And I just remember there was like a lot of wooden stairs and like seats everywhere. There's music blaring at us. They wanted us to buy stuff. But when we were doing a tour or whatever downtown, that was their big stick, is that was their biggest location.
That's it. Yeah. So as you walk in, they have the merchandise store on the first floor, as we would say, but ground floor. And then everything, the actual restaurant itself and all that stuff is in the basement. Now, what's cool, what they have down there, they have the original doors from Abbey Road Studios.
Yeah, I remember that. And I think there was like a motorcycle somewhere down there. Somebody's motorcycle was there.
Yeah, Hard Rock also own, I don't think it's currently on public display, they own the bus from Magical Mystery Tour, Beatles.
Oh. You know, at least in some way it's getting like looked at by the general public. It's almost kind of cool, and I'm sure they're taking good care of it. But I remember there was also a Ramones. I think it was a Tommy Ramones jacket. I remember seeing that. It was like a leather one with some type of design. Looked like graffiti on the back of it when I was there. Mm-hmm. And then they've got that big giant stage with the curtain, and it says Hard Rock.
Yeah, because they actually put on concerts down there, and then they use it for corporate launches and things like that.
Makes sense. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I remember seeing just a lot of guitars.
They had the outfits, the red like suit, smoking jacket type things that Van Halen wore in the Hot for Teacher video.
It doesn't ring a bell, but it was a lot of stuff.
If they're still there, it's as you go deep into the restaurant, the stage area is on the right-hand side and the Hot for Teacher stuff was on the left-hand side.
And they've got like their sign out front has the big giant guitar on it on the side of the building.
Yeah, and a lot of them have that. The newer Hard Rocks don't tend to have have that kind of stuff, but the older ones tend to have the big guitar. Now, the one that's in the new one that's in Los Angeles, which is in the City Walk. Have you ever been to that?
No, I have not.
So where you have in Los Angeles, where you have Universal Studios, there is Universal Studios City Walk, which is like the thing that you've been to in Orlando. Where it's like shops and restaurants and things, but it is more of a long strip with shops, restaurants, and
I think I've seen a picture of it or something before. I get the idea.
Now that one, they had like a standard like Fender Stratocaster type guitar at the end of that was their Hard Rock sign, and at some point a number of years ago, and he was still alive at the time, they turned it into the Eddie Van Halen Frankenstein Strat with the red, white, and black stripes, and changed the scratch plate so it looked like his guitar and made it the Eddie Van Halen Frankenstein guitar.
That's random. Was there a Hard Rock Cafe? Well, not Hard Rock Cafe, Hard Rock Hotel in London too? To
my knowledge, not in London, no.
Oh.
They have opened another Hard Rock, which is in like Leicester Square or Piccadilly Circus. I've never been to it because it opened after I left. The problem with the London Hard Rock is it's a little bit off the beaten track. It's not in the main area of London where most tourists would go to.
When you say Piccadilly, say that again.
Piccadilly Circus.
When you say things like that from these cities, it makes me feel like they're named after candy. Like that sounds like a candy, like some lollipop. Here's your Piccadilly Circus, sir.
Well, there's a garnish you put on like salad and stuff called piccalilli.
Yeah, maybe that's what my brain's associated with. I don't know. Every once in a while, when you say these things, I'm like, that sounds like a candy.
You know, like when you see like a picture of London where you'd have like the electronic sign, and that's like Piccadilly Circus, and you've got Eros, which is the statue that's there. And they have the Trocadero and all that stuff.
Trocadero sounds like Dunkaroos from the 90s with the cookies and they all just sound like candy to me. Well, this episode's been a weird one. All right.
Okay. So anyway, where was I? Hard Rock cafes. So another one that I went to, long time ago, in fact, was the Hard Rock Bar. Now, this was a concept of Hard Rock that never really worked, and they dropped it. So there was only ever 2 Hard Rock bars. There was one in Singapore in the airport, and there was one in Cardiff. No, sorry, Bristol on the way, if you're going to Cardiff on the M4.
That's the one you said you and Hannah went to, right?
Yeah, so we went to the one in Bristol, and it was a bar concept, and they had some light bar snacks, but it was mostly just drinks. And after the fact, I went to a couple of other Hard Rocks with servers who'd been there for a long time, because, you know, they have to have their flair with 1 million badges on.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. And they never heard of it, and they had no idea what I was talking about. But I have a flyer from it, which I scanned in, that's in my archive, so I know it existed. And I didn't dream it. No one's going to convince
Tim that it was a fever dream. One day Tim's going to wake up and be like, was that real? Just go look through his archives. I love how you scanned it just in case.
Well, you never know. You might need to prove these things.
Tim one day is going to sell that for $1 million, and that'll be his retirement.
Would it be Can I make it one of these NFTs that's very popular at the moment?
Oh my gosh, Charlie just got started on an NFT. Like, he was going through a list of them. They made a bunch of Funko Pop ones with Ninja Turtles on it. So yes, you could make it an NFT.
There you go. That's what I'm going to do. But I was going to go on to say, so if you get on the M4, you get to Bristol, and you carry on, you come into Wales, and the first big place that you come into on the M4 is Cardiff. And the Hard Rock Cardiff is the place that Hannah and I went to when I proposed to Hannah to get married. We celebrated like anyone would by getting in the car and driving for 2.5 hours and going to Cardiff and eating in the Hard Rock.
It sounds exactly like what you and Hannah would do.
And sadly, that Hard Rock is not there anymore.
Oh, you guys were so crazy. You shut the place down.
There we go. Or maybe when the Somali Native American people bought it, they realized it wasn't making any money and they closed it down. That's probably more to the point.
Might have been a strategic business decision, but mine sounded cooler. I've learned more about the history of Big Bingo, the Somalian Indian tribes. There's a lot of names in England that sound like candy. That's what I've learned tonight. I still can't get past this concept of actual, like, I mean, there are bingo halls like in America, but they're not like clubs. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, they're chains. A lot of towns would have them. Top Rank was a brand that had lots of bingo clubs, and I think Gala had a lot of bingo clubs as well.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to Google. If any of our American listeners know of a bingo club in America, please let me know, because this is a concept that seems very foreign to me. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. Now here, like I said, you can go to like a VFW and they have bingo little things where you can win money, and they keep part of it to raise money for their little, to pay for stuff, but there's not like a club or like a company running a bingo hall. And I don't really feel like bingo's in Vegas. Like, you don't poker bingo.
No, you have Keno, but not bingo.
What the heck is Keno?
Keno is a similar concept to bingo, but I think the odds are terrible. And if you eat in any restaurants in Vegas, especially ones that are in casinos, they have a Keno board up on the wall. And I think
that's what that is.
Yeah, and you can buy Keno tickets or something like that.
I've seen them. I've seen like people staring at it, like the bookies kind of type stuff on, like, I guess like horse races and stuff. There's a big wall. I've seen them doing that before too, but I just didn't know. I've never heard it called Keno. Huh. I'm learning a lot tonight. Not about music at all, but I'm learning a lot.
Marvelous. Okay, so on with the hard rocks. So another hard rock that we went to in May of 2010, which is before I left England to come here, is the one in Portugal, in Lisbon. So we was on the tube one time in England, and there was a sign up for a cheap holiday company, and it was like package holidays to Portugal from £149, flight and accommodation included.
Was it on Spirit Airlines?
I can't remember the company. It could have been Monarch Airlines or something. I can't remember. But anyway,
that the Europe version of Spirit Airlines?
Yeah, like EasyJet or Ryanair, that type of thing. Yeah. But it was a package with the hotel thrown in. So we looked into it and we found something we liked, and we didn't get the cheapest, so we got the one up, and we went to Albufeira in Portugal, which was a resort town. And because it was dead cheap, it was out of season. And it was this resort town that had yet to bloom into the resortness. So the place was more or less completely deserted when we got there. If we were not the only people in that resort hotel, there was probably only two other people.
Were you going to get murdered?
No, it was a nice hotel.
Okay.
And in fact, we met the holiday reps like the second or third morning that we were there, just because they wanted to meet us. I think they wanted someone to talk to.
They're like, we're bored. What's up?
Anyway, they suggested that we could do a day trip to Lisbon if we was interested. So we'd already sort of thought that this might be a thing that we like to do, and mostly because there was a Hard Rock to go to. So we got on this coach trip where you left the hotel at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and we got a taxi to the bus station, bearing in mind that neither of us speak Portuguese. And as you get out of the resort type town part of it, sure, people in Europe speak English, but signs are not in English, and it's not as easy as you think it would be. So we get to this bus station and we think we're standing on the right stand for the bus, and we wasn't, and we ended up on the wrong stand. Anyway, in the end, we boarded this bus, and it was like a 4-hour plus trip into Lisbon. And 15 minutes into this journey, I had to use the lavatory like you would not believe.
Classy.
So it was 3.5 or however many hours of not terribly enjoyable journey into Lisbon. Anyhow, we got to Lisbon. Everything was taken care of. And then the main part of our trip, it wasn't the architecture. It wasn't the cobbled streets. It wasn't the... they were actually setting up for the Pope when they were there. The Pope was making a papal visit to Lisbon, and they were setting up this huge stage where he was going to address the crowd or the trams or any of that cool stuff. No, where did we go? We went to the Hard Rock.
To the Hard Rock. So they took a 4-hour trip on a bus. So whenever I was in Greece, we took a bus. It was a double-decker bus that you could take out. I had one of those hop-on, hop-off ones, which is sometimes cheaper to go to some of the big places than like trying to pay for a taxi to take you everywhere or anything. Our bus broke down. That happened once. We sat on the side of the road in the heat in Greece on our way to the beach for about 2 hours. So much so that people were risking their lives running across the road to go to the gas station. Because I don't know if you've ever seen the way people drive in Greece, but you're taking your risk by stepping on a road there.
Yeah, I've been to Cyprus, which has a similar driving style.
They're just a little crazy, and there's like 6 lanes on each side of the road, and so but it was so hot, and we were all just stuck sitting there, and the bus was like shut off because it was like leaking coolant or something, so they couldn't really run the air conditioner, so we really didn't have a choice, and so us and about 30 other passengers sat in the hot sun waiting for the other bus to come pick us up.
Fabulous.
And that's another calamity that's happened to me.
Well, I can tell you that the bus trip, apart from my lavatory issues, was pretty straightforward there and back into Lisbon. And just to bring it back to a rock and roll connection, they had a Eddie Van Halen red Music Man guitar, which is like the guitar that I play, screwed to the wall. And looking at it from not much of a distance, you could tell it was either a factory second or it wasn't set up very well, which is probably why it was screwed to the wall. And they also had a acoustic guitar, which used to belong to Richie Sambora of Bon Jovi. And I remember reading a Guitar World article about how he'd had a tremolo whammy bar professionally installed on an acoustic guitar, and it was a complete disaster and never worked how he wanted to. And I was pleased to see that the Lisbon Hard Rock had it. So it was interesting to see it in real life, having read it in a guitar magazine years ago.
From what I know about a whammy bar, and I'm not a guitar player for everybody out there, so don't come for me. What was his goal? What did he think was going to happen by installing one on an acoustic guitar?
Well, with any whammy bar, what it does is it lowers the pitch or increases the pitch across the whole thing. So you can add vibrato to notes or to chords, but equally you can get into the Eddie Van Halen territory of where you hit harmonics and you dump the bar down or you raise the bar up. And with overdrive, you can create like wacky sounds.
Yeah.
So he was hoping to replicate some of the techniques he used on an electric guitar on acoustic guitar. But the problem with an acoustic guitar is it doesn't sustain as well as an electric guitar. So if you hit a chord on an acoustic and then you start pivoting the bridge, the sound's just going to die off.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because and this is just purely speculation, and I'm not an expert, but acoustic guitars are kind of hollow, whereas an electric guitar is not. So does the sound it wouldn't seem like it would generate the same way.
Well, some electric guitars are hollow as well. It's just the nature of the sound being made.
Okay.
That it's not necessarily a good idea. I think people since have made acoustic guitars with tremolo bridges on them, but it's really not something you want to get involved with. But it was more the fact that he'd put this Kahler tremolo bar on an acoustic.
And it was on there.
Yeah, and I'd read it in a guitar magazine article years and years before that. And I was like, would you look at that? There it is.
That's a really random fact, though. And I would have... So, yeah. Anyway. So... Where was it on? Was it in the same location on the acoustic guitars? It wasn't the electric, in the same. Yeah,
it's in the bridge. What they'd done is they'd replaced the whole bridge with a.
Okay, like that whole piece.
Yeah, with a whole tremolo system type thing.
I was trying to visualize it, so I'm gonna have to go Google it afterwards. Find a picture of it, put it up on the page because I'm curious to see what it looks like.
There we are. I'll do that. So anyway, as we carry on with our Hard Rock cafes, another one that I went to was in Atlantic City, New Jersey. and it was in a word that we don't use on this podcast. It was his Taj Mahal casino, which had a Hard Rock Cafe in it. I also been to the one in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
In California, and that's the same because they had a Harrah's casino there, and it was the same deal.
Didn't he have to sell the Taj Mahal or something, or he doesn't own the Taj Mahal anymore?
I think it went bankrupt.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay, so anyway, so it went bankrupt, but there was a Hard Rock Cafe in it. But so you had to walk. How big was it? Was it like, was Taj Mahal like the regular size Taj Mahal, or was it a mini version?
Well, it wasn't anything like the Taj Mahal, apart from it had some novelty, use the word again, novelty architecture on the outside.
Which Tim is attracted to, we have learned.
Absolutely. So, it looked kind of Taj Mahal-y from the outside, but when you got inside, it was a standard Vegas-style casino.
That makes sense. So, like, if there was a big ball of string that you could walk into on the side of the road, Tim's definitely stopping for the big ball of string.
Absolutely, and if it's a building built into the shape of a ball of string, even better.
You're going to see pictures on Tim's Instagram pacing in front of the ball of string. Well, at least you know what you like,
Exactly. Anyway, on with the on the Hard Rock. So another one that I went to was the Hard Rock Cafe in Baltimore. And that's in the harbor in Baltimore. It's a very nice location. And what's cool about the Hard Rock in Baltimore, Maryland, is that most of the guitar signs that they have are Fender or Gibson designs, which are like iconic guitars that even a non-guitar player would recognize. The one that's at the Hard Rock Cafe in Baltimore is a Paul Reed Smith guitar. And Paul Reed Smith is famously from Maryland. Mm-hmm. So the guitar they have on the roof is a Paul Reed Smith Ted McCarty, which is one of the guitars that the Paul Reed Smith Company make.
Huh. See, I've never even heard of Paul Reed Smith until you told me about. We were talking about it either on another episode or it might have been on a Zoom chat. Like, you're right, that wouldn't have been a non-guitarist would have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
so that's kind of cool.
They're a relatively new guitar company. I mean, new as in 30 years old, but they're known for making very high quality guitars, and they have some very interesting designs. It's somewhere between a Gibson and a Fender, depending on what model you buy. But they're in the guitar community. They're a famous design. So I thought it was cool that they have the Paul Reed Smith guitar as their sign. Well, now, I do have another story driving to Baltimore. So I think we went to the Hard Rock the next day, but we were driving into Baltimore. And yet again, I needed to make a pit stop. And it was getting kind of urgent. So we pulled off into the Baltimore Travel Plaza, which is like a Greyhound bus station. Now, bearing in mind this was late at night. It was probably 10 o'clock or something like that. We pulled up, and it was probably the shadiest place I've ever seen in my life. And there was people sitting in cars hanging about looking dodgy. And I said to Hannah, if I need to use a cup, I will. I'm not going in there.
Oh, Tim, man up, go do it.
So we pulled around a little bit, and there was a hotel and a McDonald's. So I said, McDonald's, great. So I run in this McDonald's, go into the gentleman's bathroom, and unsurprisingly, there's two dodgy-looking dudes standing in the bathroom, not doing bathroom business, just hanging out.
Just hanging.
Yeah, and they were speaking a language I didn't understand. It was a scene, and this is the last place in the world I needed to be. So I go into the cubicle and lock the door behind me.
Because those are such secure doors, Tim. They couldn't get through that.
Never. Anyway, so I'm standing there doing my business. All is good with the world. And I look up, and the cubicle was splattered in blood.
Okay.
And I finished my business, and I got out there quicker than you've ever seen in your life.
I don't even think I would have stopped to wash my hands. I would have found some hand sanitizer.
It was done. It was done.
It wouldn't matter.
Yeah, I went straight out of there.
Fantastic, Tim. Sounds like you really brought it home there. I like the pause where we just stared at each other. Yeah, it was blood. It was blood. One time, so we went to how when you're on the road and you stop at gas stations, how gas station bathrooms can be very gross, just straight gross.
Maybe you would call them a biohazard.
Yeah. So my mom was like, so she wanted to use the one that was there, and the door was broken. The lock was broken. So she didn't quite want to sit down because of how gross it was. So she asked me to watch the door for her. I was only like 10, 11 years old. And I'm the one she asked to watch the door for her. Guess what happens? My 10-year-old, 11-year-old self gets distracted by, I don't know, a dog in a car or something. Yeah, some dude walked in on her in the bathroom while she was basically standing up. Oh, she never let me live that down. And then one time in a bathroom, I got locked in a bathroom when I was about probably like 7. I got locked in a bathroom. So it was like a park. And, you know, those bathrooms aren't great either. And they had one of those old school kind of locks. And I was little and I got stuck. And I remember I just sat there and screamed till someone finally came and broke it out for me. Because I didn't know what to do. I was only like
7. Well, I can give you another story. This is a Vegas story. So we was staying in the Flamingo in Vegas. And the suite that we always it wasn't a suite. It was just a standard room. Anyway, it was to the point. But they just renovated it, and it was very nice in there. And they'd put like a big flat screen TV in there and a sound system, and everything was super nice and super new. And we'd been out, and I was getting ready for bed, and it was late. It was maybe 1 a.m., 2 a.m., something like that. It was quite late. So I'm in the bathroom getting ready for bed. And what they'd done is done away with like a regular door. They'd had like a huge big glass sliding door that came across. And it looked cool because there was like this huge big plate of glass that came across and it was frosted and things like that.
I gotcha.
So I'm in there, close it, do my bit, get ready for bed. I go to leave. I pull the door. It falls off the runner. And then just lands, and it's if you imagine, this is this huge, massive, big plate of glass.
Oh God!
So my worry is if I moved it, it would fall more off the runner and then fall on me and break, or some combination of stuff like that. So Hannah had to call the front desk and call maintenance.
You just had to stand there and wait for it, open glass and fall on you.
Yeah, so I just hung out in the bathroom for half an hour, and these two maintenance guys came in, and it was like 3 a.m. by the time they came. And these two guys, they grabbed it and manipulated it so I could leave. And then they were just grumbling about, this is the third one that's happened like this. They didn't use the right glue. I told them the glues wouldn't stick. How many times did I tell them, Bill? Yeah, I told them.
Well, I would probably be mad too if it was the third one I had to do at 3 a.m. Honestly, I would have probably been worried it was going to fall on me with my luck too. So, speaking of call, I'm going to give you one more story about calling maintenance people, then we can finish it up with the last Hard Rock Cafe. But one time at work, Tim, when we had a previous facilities person who worked there, and his name started with a T. Mm-hmm. You may know who I'm talking about. He doesn't work there anymore.
Yeah.
It's not that he's a bad guy. I just don't want to name names. So in the course of a week, I had to call him 4 times at work. 1 week. So the first one was I threw the wrong paper down the shred bin. So he had to come help me fish it out. Simple enough. Would have been if he knew where the key was. He had to call the company. Apparently the key was at the agency. It was a whole thing. The entire time I'm panicking because I need what's in the shred bin really badly. So then I have to call him because we also have these big blue, and Tim knows this happened because he was in the IT department when it happened. They have these big blue, large trash can things that are also for the shred company. I had just bought a new car, came in and set my key fob on top of it. It fell into the shred bin.
Oh, damn.
So then I was like panicking. So I called him again. Guess who doesn't know where the key is? Guess who says he's got to call the company and all this stuff. And I was like, I can't leave till we get my key fob out of here. And this is a new car, so we're getting it out. So I went into the IT department and me and another member of IT who listens to this podcast may have pried it open, flipped it upside down, and grabbed my key fob out. So then, in the same week, I had to call this guy because I went underneath our store. You know where? Well, there's a big conference room that we were in today, Tim. You know the trash can area with by the stairs. Well, supposedly that door doesn't lock. Well, it locked on me, and I got stuck in it. So I had to call him, the same guy, in the same week. I'm pretty sure he probably thinks I'm crazy. And he walked in and he opened the door from the other side. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "It won't open. It's locked." He's like, "This door doesn't lock." And I was like, "Well, it wouldn't open." And then I was walking out of the building, and you know those panels on the side of the building, Tim, that like fell off last winter? They had to replace them.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming out of the building when one of those flew off in front of me, and I called him to tell him that happened because I was worried it was going to hit somebody. That all happened within the same week of him. Yeah. So I was convinced he thought I was an idiot.
Oh, calamity just follows you, Joy. That's what it is.
When it rains, it pours. When it rains, it pours. All right, Tim, end us with one of your favorite hard rock.
Okay, so I've got a number to choose from, but I'm going to end on this one. So this is San Francisco, California.
Okay.
So we did a grand road trip of California. We started, I believe, in Vegas, and then we went down to San Diego, and then we went up the coast. Then we got up to San Francisco, which I'm about to come on to, and then we went to Lake Tahoe, and then we went back to Vegas. It was a huge, great, big, grand road trip. And yes, it was designed around visiting as many hard rocks as possible.
Of course.
But the San Francisco Hard Rock was pretty cool. It's on Pier 39. Now, if you ever see like any film of like touristy area in San Francisco, and you see the seals and you see like the fairground and stuff, it's on Pier 39. And Hard Rock have their restaurant literally just as you walk onto the pier on the right hand side.
I know what you're talking about. I've been there. I've been to the pier. I've never been to the Hard Rock, but I know where you're referencing. It's used in 1,000 movies.
Yeah, and I was always disappointed we didn't spend much time in San Francisco because we only had enough time to drive into San Francisco, find a hotel, eat at the Hard Rock, sleep in the hotel, and then get on the road to go to the next thing.
But
otherwise,
you didn't get stuck in anything in the hotel there, correct? Nothing happened?
No, it was nothing. It was nothing like that. The cool thing about the Hard Rock, they had some cool guitars in there. They had an Eddie Van Halen PV Wolfgang guitar screwed to the wall, which was quite interesting. But my main disappointment with that San Francisco trip, I really wanted to go to Alcatraz. And when you walk to the bottom of the pier, you see where all the seals hang out. And then you look out into the distance, you can see Alcatraz.
Yes.
Especially we were there just as the sun was going down, and you can see Alcatraz. But we looked on the sign, and it's like the first boat that took you to Alcatraz, I think, was 11 a.m. And the way I'd worked it out for our road trip, we had to be on the road at 9:30. Otherwise, we would have missed all the other places that we wanted to go to. Well,
Tim, now you know where once we're past this whole COVID pandemic thing, that's where your next trip's going to have to be. You're going to have to go to Alcatraz.
Exactly. And the other thing that disappointed me is that I found out way after the fact when we were driving out of San Francisco and heading back out onto whatever the road is that takes you out of the city and on the interstate. Yeah. I literally drove past the turning that would take you where the Mythbusters shop is, M5 Industries.
Oh, man, Tim, you could have skipped one of those Hard Rocks for that.
Well, as you know, I'm a fan of Mythbusters, and I'm currently rewatching every episode from episode 1.
How far into it are you?
I'm at season 5, like episode 14 or 15. They've just got into exploding water heaters.
How many seasons are there?
I think there's 14 or 15, but the later seasons have 5 episodes or 7 episodes or something. When I'm at the point of where it's probably good when they were actually doing science-y experiments and using explosions and things to prove their point.
They jumped the shark at some point.
Later on, in Mythbusters, it just turned into rubbish. It was like, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bust a myth. If we put C4 in a car, will it explode? Next on Mythbusters. And it didn't. It got rubbish towards the end.
You're like, I don't need to watch this one. Yes, it will. Bye.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, that's disappointing. But at least you got to all the Hard Rocks. That's really all that matters.
That's correct. And it's, what did I say? 42 and counting.
And if either Big Bingo or Hard Rock Cafe companies of the world are listening, we will happily take your sponsorship.
Oh, we would be delighted, and we're very cheap.
Well, you have no idea how cheap we are. We'll take anything.
Exactly.
And with that, I think we'll call it, Tim.
Okay, well, thank you for listening, everyone. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
To remind me of another day to come.